Hi guys, I'm the Michael Myers fanatic. I'm here today to review the 1979 novel Halloween. It was based on the screenplay by John Carpenter and Deborah Hill. The novel was written and published by Curtis Richards and Bantam Books, and it basically tells the story of how Michael Myers became a killer, and it opens up with Curtis Richards telling you about November 22nd, 1963, and that's when the president got assassinated. But then he goes on to say that something just as bad was happening on October 31st of 1963. And that's when Michael Myers killed his sister, Judith Margaret Myers. But before all that, it basically portrays Michael as this shy kid. He has bedwetting problems, and apparently he's been hearing voices. And in my opinion, I think when he told his mother, Edith, that he had been hearing voices, she should have got him some help. But she didn't do that for some reason. But anyway, his grandmother comes over and she's telling him stories about the boogeyman, and that sometimes when she was a little girl, she would wake up and her barn would be on fire and they don't know who did it. And sometimes they believe that kids did it. And then sometimes they believe that the boogeyman did it. And Michael's listening to these stories, and Edith Myers, who's Michael's mom, she's like, Mom, I don't think you should be telling him stuff like that. And we also learned that Michael has been getting into fights. Curtis Richards, the author of this book, basically blames the devil or some wicked spirit for Michael's crimes. I agree with Curtis because although I don't really usually get into religious beliefs, my personal belief is that it's not normal for a 6-year-old boy to take a knife and plunge it into someone. That's not normal behavior. So most of the time I would think either they're seriously ill, or either the devil or some kind of demon had a role in it. But getting back to what I was saying, the grandmother is not a very nice person. She's very cold, and she treats Michael very coldly. She makes fun of him for wanting to dress up like a clown. And obviously Michael Myers is somebody of low self-esteem. He doesn't think a lot of himself in the book. So he was basically an accident waiting to happen. He goes out trick-or-treating, and when he's trick-or-treating, Judy's boyfriend Danny comes over and they have sex. And after they have sex, the voice tells Michael while he's trick-or-treating, you've got to go home. It's time to do that thing that we talked about. He goes to the house first of all with a bunch of other kids. Judy doesn't recognize the kids at first. But then when she does recognize them, she gets to Michael Myers and she says, Michael, I know it's you, or she says something to that effect, and he says, I'm not Michael Myers, I'm a clown. And she jokingly says, well, what if I don't want to give you guys any candy? Michael replies, if you don't give us any candy, we will kill you. That was his exact words. So that just goes to show you that he was already messed up. To make a joke like that, some people are going to say, well, it's Halloween, kids make jokes. To me, that's not an appropriate joke. She ignores it, and Michael goes out with the rest of the kids. But when he's done trick-or-treating, he's back home, and the voice tells him, you know what you have to do. So he waits till Danny leaves, and long story short, he goes into Judy's room, and she yells at him. She says, get out of here, damn it. And he gets mad at her and slash her on the wrist. And the book says that she can't believe that he's doing this. It says that she's more surprised than hurt. It's more about the element of surprise than it is about pain. Then he does it again. He stabs her in the breast. Then he stabs her in the stomach. And then she dies. But see, the book says that he keeps stabbing her. He stabs her in the breast, stabs her in the stomach. He even goes as far as to stab her in her vagina. As far as the book says, the book uses the word groin, but it's basically referring to her vagina. And that, to me, that lets me further know that one of two things is happening here. Either he had some knowledge of sexual organs before he committed the murder, or either the voice is telling him, the demon is telling him about sexual organs. But somebody had to let this little guy know about this. Either his parents let him know, or the devil told him, or some kind of demon or somebody from hell told him about these sexual organs. Because a 6-year-old boy is not going to know about that unless he hears it from another party. But the book says that when he kills this girl, it is like no joy that he has ever known. So when he kills Judith, he is filled with ecstasy, such pleasure, because it is like no joy that he has ever known, as the book says. This is something that he has been waiting to do for quite some time. But he has never had the opportunity of killing this girl. He killed her because he didn't like the thought of her having sex. However, when his parents had sex, as far as he's concerned, they were making each other happy. The book also says that the sour odor of blood came from her body. He steps over her body and goes down to the kitchen because he is hungry. So he reaches on the table, gets himself a cookie, and he eats it. And then he goes into the refrigerator and gets milk. And milk is now on his face, mixed with blood, because he had just killed his sister. They said that the milk had turned red. So if the milk turned red, that means that it is mixed with blood, on his mouth. He goes out onto the front lawn. A car approaches. It is his parents. And the parents say to him, the father says, "Michael." But Michael doesn't answer. The next thing we know, he is arrested. And the judge and all these people in the court asking him, "Michael, why did you do this horrible thing?" And I imagine that he tells them why he did it. And he gets sent to this insane asylum. Now the book says that Michael is suffering from what most killers suffer from, which is something called anniversary syndrome. And what that is every year of the anniversary they go off. They go crazy, remembering what they had done. And the same thing happens to Michael while he's in the asylum. In the asylum, it says that Michael is feared by the inmates. They basically let him have his way, because they know if they don't let him have his way, some deadly prank is going to await them. There have been cases where Michael Myers have poisoned people. He's given people a rash. He's pushed people down the stairs. He even tried to drown a girl while playing musical chairs because she didn't let him have the game. Somebody borrowed a game from Michael and didn't return it, and he did something horrible to them. I don't really remember what it was, but I really love this book. They ask Michael, "Are you sure you did it? Was there anybody in the house with you?" At first they think the boyfriend Danny did it, but Michael says, "No, there's nobody else. I did it." Dr. Loomis knows that Michael isn't human, but the judge says, "Well, we'll wait a year and see what happens. If nothing else happens, we'll release the boy back into his parents' custody." But that doesn't happen because the judge died. And it even says that Michael had preferred to stay in the asylum because he knows he couldn't make it out there in the world. But in the asylum, he basically had the run of the place. He even got to have a Halloween party at his request. But long story short, he grows up. When he grows up, he breaks out and tries to kill Marion Chambers. Once again, long story short, the novel is basically like the movie. So I don't really need to go into that. All you guys need to know is that Lori starts thinking about the Myers case. She is obsessed with it, and she's wondering how a 6-year-old boy could do such a thing. But actually, I forgot to mention, when their son had did this horrible thing, nobody wanted to be associated with them anymore. So they had to move out of Haddonfield because their reputation was damaged, because they were the family of the boy that killed his sister. And everyone thinks that that house in Haddonfield is haunted. Michael gets out of the asylum, stalks Lori and her friends, and Lori is wondering about evil and whether or not it really exists. She talks about it with her mom. She's like, "Have you ever known anybody evil?" And her mom talks about Hitler. When Michael is killing Annie, Annie is thinking about all the things that she'll never get to do. She'll never get to date anybody again. She'll never get to say goodbye to her father. Michael stabbed her and her intestines came out, and Michael put it on the bed with her body. This is making me think of Jack the Ripper. I think that when Curtis Richards wrote this novel, he got some of his ideas from Jack the Ripper. Because, you have Michael stabbing people in their vagina and taking their intestines out. That's Jack the Ripper type stuff. So it's clear to me that that's where he got some of his inspiration for this novel. Because Michael is now killing in the same manner as Jack the Ripper killed. The book also points out Michael's grandfather had committed a similar act in 1898 or something like that, where he shot 2 people because the demon told him to, quote, "kill the dancers." Like I said, long story short, Michael kills Annie. And then he kills Bob Sims by hanging Bob on the wall. You guys know most of this stuff already. And then he kills Linda. Lori gets over there and she notices that her friends are dead. Then he tries to kill Lori. Dr. Loomis shoots him, he falls out the window, and he's gone. I really enjoyed this book. I thought it was better than the movie. I think that Rob Zombie probably stole some things from the novel. We learn in the book that one of his favorite candies is candy corn. That's one of his favorite snacks. Because we can see Michael eating candy corns in the 2007 remake. But those are my thoughts on the novel Halloween by Curtis Richards and Bantam Books. I'll put the link in the description box for you guys to read. I'm the Michael Myers Fanatic. I approve this message. Halloween by Curtis Richards and Bantam Books, based on the screenplay by John Carpenter and Deborah Hill.